He won an alien female slave as a prize. The shocking truth. The stars burned bright beyond the cracked viewport of the Ember Dawn, a human freighter-turned warship that had seen more battles than its crew cared to count. Captain Jace Harrow stood at the helm, his hand steady on the controls despite the sweat beading on his brow. The mission had been a wild one, diving into the heart of a collapsing star system to tow a stranded Vren fleet to safety. The Vren, a tall, silver-skinned species with glowing eyes and minds sharper than plasma blades, weren't known for asking favors. Yet here Jace was, staring down a council of them in their shimmering orbital chamber, wondering how he pulled it off. The air hummed with alien energy as the Vren High Speaker stepped forward, her voice smooth and cold like ice sliding over steel. "Captain Harrow, your bravery has saved countless Vren lives. For this, we offer you a reward beyond measure." Jace shifted uncomfortably in his worn flight jacket, the weight of 100 glowing eyes pressing against him. He wasn't one for ceremonies. Give him a ship, a crew, and a problem to solve, and he was happy. But this felt like a trap wrapped in a bow. Before he could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows of the chamber. She was Vren, no doubt, tall and lean, with skin that shimmered like liquid metal and eyes that glowed a soft violet. Her movements were graceful, deliberate, like she owned the space she walked through. The High Speaker gestured to her. "This is Kalia. She will serve you, Captain, as a token of our gratitude. Use her skills wisely." A murmur rippled through the council, some nods of approval, other sharp glances of dissent. Jace's stomach twisted. Serve him? He didn't like the sound of that. Not one bit. Thanks," he managed, forcing a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "But I'm not really the servant type. My crew and I get by just fine." The High Speaker's gaze didn't waver. "It is decided. She is yours." Kalia stepped closer, her expression blank, but her eyes locked on his, studying him like he was a puzzle she hadn't figured out yet. Jace cleared his throat, leaning toward her slightly. "You okay with this?" he muttered, low enough for only her to hear. Her lips twitched, just a flicker. "Do I have a choice, Captain?" Her voice was soft, but edged with something. Humor, maybe, or defiance. Back on the Ember Dawn, the mood lightened as the crew piled into the mess hall, their chatter filling the air. The ship was a patchwork of human grit and scavenged tech, its hull scarred from years of dodging raiders and asteroid storms. Jace's team was a rough bunch. Lena, the wiry engineer with a knack for fixing anything. Torv, the burly gunner who laughed louder than his cannons roared. And Mira, the sharp-tongued medic who kept them all alive. They eyed Kalia with a mix of awe and suspicion as she stood near the doorway, silent and still. "So, Cap," Lena said, tossing a wrench between her hands, "she bunking with us or what? 'Cause I ain't sharing my cot with no alien princess." Torv snorted, nearly choking on his ration bar. "Princess? She looks more like she could snap you in half, Lena." Kalia tilted her head, her violet eyes flickering. "I require no cot," she said simply. "I adapt." Jace rubbed the back of his neck, already feeling a headache coming on. "She'll figure it out. Just don't scare her off, all right? We've got enough problems." The next few days were strange. Kalia didn't talk much, but she was everywhere, watching Lena tweak the engines, observing Torv clean his guns, even hovering near Mira as she patched up a crewman's scraped arm. It wasn't creepy, exactly, just intense, like she was memorizing every move they made. Jace caught her once in the cockpit, her long fingers brushing the navigation panel. "Careful there," he said, stepping in. "That's not a toy." She turned, unfazed. "Your systems are outdated, Captain. I could improve them." He raised an eyebrow. "You a mechanic now?" Her gaze held his. "I am. Many things." That night, Jace sat in his cramped quarters, a dented metal desk between him and a flickering holoscreen. A message had come through from the Vren Council, encrypted and marked urgent. He hesitated, then opened it. The voice was distorted, alien, but the words were clear. Captain Harrow, your gift is more than she seems. Watch her closely. Trust is a luxury you cannot afford. The screen went dark, leaving Jace staring at his own reflection. He leaned back, running a hand through his dark hair. A servant, ha. Kalia wasn't just some prize. She was a mystery, and maybe a threat. The question was, what kind? The crew noticed her quirks too. Torv swore he'd seen her hands glow faintly when she touched the ship's power grid. Lena caught her muttering in an alien tongue, too fast to translate. Mira just shrugged it off. She's weird, but she ain't hurt nobody yet. Jace wasn't so sure. He found Kalia later, standing by a viewport, staring at the stars. You don't sleep much, do you? He asked, leaning against the wall. She didn't turn. Sleep is optional for my kind. I prefer to think. He smirked. About what? How to deal with a bunch of loud humans. Her head tilted slightly. Perhaps, or how to survive them. Jace crossed his arms, the Vren's warning echoing in his mind. Look, Kalia, I don't know what's going on with you, but I'm not big on secrets. If you're here to help, great. If not. He trailed off, letting the silence hang. She finally faced him, her violet eyes steady. I am here, Captain. That is all you need to know. For now. It wasn't an answer, not really, but something in her tone made him pause. She wasn't scared or hostile, just certain, and that certainty sparked something in Jace, curiosity, the kind that had driven him to the stars in the first place. As the ember dawn hummed through the void, Jace couldn't shake the feeling that Kalia was more than a reward. She was a challenge. Humanity had clawed its way into the galaxy with grit and guts, and now this alien woman was part of their story. What she'd bring, good or bad, was anyone's guess. But Jace Harrow wasn't one to back down from a fight or a mystery. He'd figure her out, one way or another. The ember dawn cut through the black expanse of uncharted space, its engines rumbling with a newfound strength that hadn't been there a week ago. Captain Jace Harrow stood on the bridge, arms crossed, watching the stars streak past. The ship felt different, faster, smoother, like it had woken up from a long sleep. He knew why. Kalia, the Vren woman gifted to him by her people, had spent hours in the engine room, her silver hands dancing over wires and circuits. The crew had stopped asking questions after she'd boosted the power grid by 30% without breaking a sweat. Lena, the engineer, called it a miracle. Jace called it suspicious. He glanced at Kalia now, standing near the navigation console, her violet eyes tracing the glowing map of the sector. She'd been quiet since their last talk by the viewport, but her presence was impossible to ignore. The crew had warmed to her, sort of. Tor had taken to tossing her spare ration bars, which she accepted with a polite nod. Mira had even offered her a seat in the mess hall, though Kalia preferred to stand. Lena, though, still watched her like a hawk, muttering about alien magic under her breath. Jace couldn't blame her. Kalia was a puzzle, and every piece he found only made the picture murkier. You've been busy, Jace said, breaking the silence. He nodded toward the console, where faint traces of her tampering still glowed. Kalia didn't look up. Your ship was inefficient. I fixed it. Her voice was calm, matter of fact, like she'd just swept the floor instead of rewiring a starship. Jace stepped closer, lowering his tone. Yeah, about that. The Vren message said to watch you. Said you're more than you seem. Care to explain? She finally met his gaze, her expression unreadable. Do you trust every warning you hear, Captain? He smirked. Only the ones that keep me alive. Before she could reply, a sharp beep cut through the air. Mira's voice crackled over the comms. Cap, we've got company. Small raider ship, closing fast. Looks like they're itching for a fight. Jace straightened, his hand brushing the pistol at his hip. All hands to stations. Kalia, you're with me. She raised an eyebrow, but followed without a word. The bridge buzzed with activity as the crew scrambled. Torv to the guns, Lena to the engines, Mira to the medbay. Jace slid into the pilot's seat, Kalia hovering at his side like a shadow. The raider ship was a jagged thing, patched together from stolen hulls and bristling with weapons. It fired first, a plasma bolt sizzling past the Ember Dawn's flank. Jace yanked the controls, banking hard. "Torv, light 'em up," he shouted. The ship shuddered as cannons roared, sending streaks of fire toward the enemy. The raiders returned fire, and a hit rocked the shields, sparks flying from a nearby panel. Jace gritted his teeth, then froze as Kalia moved. Her hands flew over the console, fingers a blur. The shields flared brighter, absorbing the next volley like it was nothing. "How'd you?" Jace started, but she cut him off. Later. Another raider shot came too close, and Kalia tapped a sequence he didn't recognize. A pulse shot from the Ember Dawn, not from the cannons but the ship itself, frying the raider systems. It spun helplessly, engines dark. Torv whooped over the comms. What in the hell was that? Jace stared at Kalia, breathless. "Yeah." What he said. She stepped back, brushing her hands together. "A defensive modification. You're welcome." The crew cheered as the raider drifted away. But Jace's mind raced. That wasn't just skill. That was something else. Something alien. He pulled her aside once the chaos settled, the bridge quiet again. "Okay, level with me. That wasn't normal. Who are you really?" Kalia's lips curved, just a hint of a smile. "Someone who doesn't like losing, Captain." "Isn't that enough?" He glared. "Not even close." The next day, Jace found Lena in the engine room, hunched over a terminal. "Cap, you gotta see this," she said, waving him over. The screen showed a log of encrypted signals sent from the Ember Dawn to some distant point in space. "They started right after she came aboard," Lena whispered. "She's talking to someone." Jace's jaw tightened. He'd known Kalia was hiding something, but this was proof. He stormed off to find her, the crew's chatter fading behind him. She was in the cargo bay, sorting crates with a precision that didn't match her supposed servant role. "Sending messages, huh?" Jace said, voice sharp. She didn't flinch, just kept stacking. "You're observant." He stepped closer. "Who's on the other end? The Vren? Someone worse." Kalia paused, turning to face him. Her violet eyes glinted in the dim light. "If I told you, would you believe me?" He crossed his arms. "Try me." She sighed, a rare crack in her calm. "It's complicated. I'm not your enemy, Jace. That's all I'll say." The crew gathered that night in the mess hall, the air thick with tension. Torv leaned back, arms crossed. "She's handy in a fight, I'll give her that. But secret signals, that's trouble." Mira shrugged. "She saved our skins. Maybe she's just got her own stuff going on." Lena scowled. "Yeah, stuff that could get us killed." Jace listened, his mind churning. He wanted to trust Kalia. She'd proven herself, hadn't she? But those signals, that warning, it gnawed at him. Later, he found her by the viewport again, the stars reflecting in her eyes. "You're making this hard," he said, leaning beside her. "I want to trust you, but you're not giving me much." She glanced at him, softer than usual. "Trust is earned, Captain. I'm working on it." He snorted. "Work faster." She smiled, small but real. "I'll try." For a moment, they stood there, the silence less heavy than before. Jace felt it again, that spark of curiosity. Whatever Kalia was, she was part of their story now. He just hoped it wouldn't end in flames. The days blurred as the Ember Dawn pushed deeper into the void, chasing rumors of a big score, a derelict station packed with tech. Kalia kept to herself, but her upgrades kept the ship humming. Then, one night, Jace caught her in the cockpit, a faint glow pulsing from her hands as she worked. "What's that?" he asked, pointing. She pulled back, the glow fading. Nothing important. He didn't buy it, but he let it slide. For now. The crew started to relax around her. Torv taught her a card game, laughing when she beat him in 3 moves. Mira swapped stories about old missions, grinning when Kalia listened with genuine interest. Even Lena softened, showing her how to tweak a plasma coil. Jace watched it all, torn between pride and unease. Kalia fit too well, like she'd always been there. But those signals, they haunted him. Then the distress call came. It was faint, crackling through the comms, but unmistakable, a friend voice, pleading for help from a station dead ahead. Jace called the crew to the bridge, Kalia last to arrive. Her face changed when she heard it, tight, almost scared. "What's wrong?" he asked. She shook her head. "Nothing. We should go." But her eyes said different. Jace gave the order anyway, curiosity outweighing caution. Whatever was out there, Kalia knew more than she was letting on, and he was determined to find out. As the ember dawn approached the station, its dark silhouette loomed against the stars, a relic of something long forgotten. Jace felt the weight of it. The unknown, the danger, the chance to prove what humans could do. Kalia stood beside him, a shadow full of secrets. He didn't know what they'd find, but one thing was clear. This was bigger than a reward. This was a test of trust, of strength, of everything that made them human. The ember dawn drifted toward the derelict Vren outpost, its jagged silhouette cutting a stark line against the endless black of space. The distress call still echoed faintly through the comms, a Vren voice laced with desperation that sent a shiver down Captain Jace Harrow's spine. The crew stood tense on the bridge. Lena at the controls, Torv manning the guns, Mira ready to patch up whatever trouble they stumbled into. Jace's eyes flicked to Kalia, who lingered near the back, her silver skin catching the dim light. She'd been off since the signal came through. Quiet, her violet eyes darting like she was expecting something to jump out of the shadows. Jace didn't like it. Not one bit. "All right, people," he said, voice steadied despite the knot in his gut. "We're going in. Distress calls legit, but keep your eyes open. Could be a trap." Torv grinned, patting his cannon console. "Let him try. I've got enough firepower to turn a moon to dust." Lena snorted. "Yeah, and enough brains to miss the broadside of a planet." Jace ignored the banter, turning to Kalia. "You're with us. Whatever's down there, you know more than you're saying." She met his gaze, her expression tight. "If you insist, Captain." Her tone was flat, but her hands flexed. Nervous, maybe. Jace filed it away. The outpost was a mess when they docked. Corridors dark and twisted, walls scorched from old plasma burns. The air smelled of metal and decay, thick enough to choke on. Jace led the way, pistol drawn, with Torv and Lena fanning out behind. Kalia followed, her steps silent, eyes scanning every corner. Mira stayed on the ship, ready to pull them out if things went south. The distress signal pulsed louder now, guiding them to a central chamber. What they found stopped them cold. Huddled in the shadows were Vren. 5 of them, ragged and thin, their glowing eyes wide with fear. One stepped forward, a female with cracked silver skin. You're human," she rasped, relief flooding her voice. "We thought no one would come." Jace lowered his gun slightly. "What happened here?" She gestured to the wreckage. "The council, they turned on us, called us traitors, left us to die." Jace frowned, glancing at Kalia. Her face was stone, but her fists clenched. "Traitors for what?" He pressed. The Vren hesitated, then whispered, "For questioning them." Before Jace could dig deeper, Kalia stepped forward, her voice sharp. "Enough. We need to move. This place isn't safe." The Vren woman flinched, staring at her. You're one of them, aren't you? The operatives." Jace's head snapped toward Kalia. "Operative? What's she talking about?" Kalia didn't answer, just grabbed his arm. Later, We're not alone here." As if on cue, a low hum vibrated through the walls. Ships, closing in fast. Jace cursed under his breath. "Torv, Lena, get these people to the ship. Now." The ambush hit hard. Vren enforcers poured into the chamber, their sleek armor gleaming, weapons spitting blue fire. Jace ducked behind a crate, returning shots as Torv laid down cover fire. Lena dragged the refugees toward the exit, shouting curses over the chaos. Kalia moved like a ghost, dodging blasts, then lunging at an enforcer with a speed that wasn't human. She twisted his arm, disarming him in one fluid motion, and fired his own weapon back at his squad. Jace blinked, stunned. "Where'd you learn that?" He yelled over the noise. She didn't look at him. Practice. The fight spilled into the corridors, a brutal dance of plasma and grit. Jace took a grazing shot to the shoulder, hissing as he pressed on. Torv roared, blasting an enforcer clean through a wall. Lena rigged a door to lock behind them, buying time. Kalia stayed close, her precision cutting through the enemy like a blade. By the time they reached the Ember Dawn, the refugees were aboard, and the enforcers were down. But more ships loomed on the scanners. Jace slammed the controls, pulling the ship into a sharp climb as Lena patched the engines for a jump. In the aftermath, the bridge was quiet, the hum of hyperspace the only sound. The refugees sat in the cargo bay, patched up by Mira, while the crew caught their breath. Jace cornered Kalia near the viewport, his shoulder bandaged but his temper raw. "Talk. Now. What was that back there? Who are you?" She stared out at the stars, then sighed, a long, heavy sound. "I'm no servant, Jace. I'm an exile. A Vren operative, trained to watch, to learn, to report. They sent me to you as a test. For both of us." He stepped closer, voice low. "A test. For what?" Her violet eyes met his, unflinching. "To see if humans are worth saving or destroying. The council's split. Some want peace, others want war. I was supposed to spy on you, figure out what makes you tick." Jace's jaw tightened. "And those signals, who were you reporting to?" She hesitated. "The rebels. The ones we just saved. They're fighting the council, trying to stop a war." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "So I've been hauling around a spy this whole time. Great." Kalia didn't flinch. "I could have lied to you, left you blind. But I didn't. I fought with you back there. Doesn't that count?" Jace ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling over. "It counts, but it doesn't mean I trust you. Not yet." She nodded, like she'd expected that. "Fair enough. What now?" He glared. "Now, you tell me everything. No more secrets, or I drop you at the next port and let the Vren sort you out." The crew weighed in later, sprawled across the mess hall. Torb scratched his beard. "She's a badass, Cap. Saved our hides. But a spy. That's messy." Lena crossed her arms. "I don't care how good she fights. She's been playing us." Mira shrugged. "She's got skills we need. And she didn't ditch us when it got ugly. That's something." Jace listened, his mind a storm. Kalia wasn't just a tool or a threat. She was a choice. Turn her in, and he'd lose whatever edge she brought. Keep her, and he'd risk everything on a hunch. He found her in the engine room, tweaking a panel. "You're good at this," he said, leaning against the wall. "Hiding, fighting, fixing. What else you got up your sleeve?" She glanced at him, a faint smile tugging her lips. "More than you'd believe, Captain." He stepped closer. "Try me. Give me a reason to keep you here." She set her tool down, facing him fully. "I'm done spying. The rebels need help, and so do you. The council's planning something big. I can stop it. But I need your ship, your crew, you." Jace studied her, the weight of her words sinking in. She wasn't begging, just stating facts, like she always did. But there was something new in her eyes. Resolve, maybe even trust. He didn't know if he could match it yet, But he felt that spark again. Curiosity, defiance, the human drive to push forward no matter the odds. "All right," he said finally. "You're in, but you pull anything and I'll space you myself." Her smile widened, just a fraction. "Noted." As the Ember Dawn hummed through hyperspace, Jace felt the shift. Kalia wasn't a prize anymore. She was a partner, willing or not. The outpost had been a breaking point, cracking open secrets and forging something new. The Vren Council, the rebels, the war looming ahead. It was bigger than he'd imagined, but humans didn't back down from big. They thrived on it. And with Kalia's knowledge and his crew's guts, they might just turn the tide. The stars stretched out before them, endless and unknown. Jace grinned to himself. Let the Vren come. He'd be ready. The Ember Dawn streaked through the void, its engines blazing with a fierce hum that echoed the crew's resolve. Captain Jace Harrow stood at the helm, his hand steady on the controls, eyes locked on the swirling vortex of hyperspace ahead. The Vren Council's plan loomed like a shadow over them. Stolen human tech, twisted into weapons to destabilize colonies and crush any hope of peace. Kalia had laid it bare. The Council's rogue faction wanted humanity gone, erased from the galaxy's map. But she'd also given Jace something else, a chance to fight back, to prove what humans were made of. And he wasn't about to let it slip away. Kalia stood beside him, her silver skin catching the bridge's dim light, her violet eyes sharp with focus. The air between them had shifted since the outpost. No more secrets, just a fragile trust holding them together. The crew felt it too. Torv polished his cannons with a grin, Lena tinkered with the engines like a woman possessed, and Mira stocked the med bay with a quiet determination. They'd seen Kalia in action, seen her choose them over her own kind. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was enough to keep them moving forward. We've got coordinates, Lena called from her station, tapping the console. Vren base, edge of the sector. Heavily guarded, but their tech's got our fingerprints all over it, stolen from the colonies. Jace nodded, jaw tight. They think they can use our own gear against us. Let's show them how wrong they are. Kalia glanced at him, her voice low. They're expecting a frontal assault. We'll need more than brute force. He smirked. Good thing we've got you then. What's the play? She hesitated, then said, stealth, precision. I can get us in. You get us out. The plan came together fast. Kalia hacked into the base's systems from a distance, using her Vren codes to mask the Ember Dawn as a supply ship. It was risky. One slip, and they'd be swarmed. But Jace trusted her steady hands. The crew prepped for the worst. Torv loaded extra rounds, Lena rigged a pulse bomb from spare parts, and Mira packed enough stims to keep them fighting through hell. Jace watched it all, a flicker of pride in his chest. Humans didn't just survive. They adapted. They built. They won. The base loomed into view as they dropped out of hyperspace, a sprawling fortress of sharp angles and glowing conduits, orbiting a dead moon. Vren ships patrolled its edges, sleek and deadly. Jace held his breath as Kalia sent the fake signal. For a moment, nothing. Then a docking bay opened, a silent invitation. We're in, she said, exhaling. Jace clapped her shoulder. A rare gesture. Nice work. Now let's wreck their day. She nodded, a faint smile breaking through her calm. Inside, the base buzzed with activity. Vren soldiers barking orders, drones hauling crates of human tech weapons. Jace led the team through the shadows, Kalia at his side, her knowledge guiding them past patrols. They'd reached the core, a massive chamber where the stolen tech was being fused into a planetary cannon, its barrel aimed at human space. That's our target, Jace whispered. Lena, set the bomb. Torv, cover her. Kalia, with me. We're shutting this down. The crew moved like clockwork, years of scrappy missions honing their edge. But the Vren were ready. Alarms blared as enforcers stormed in. plasma rifles blazing. Jace dove behind a console, returning fire, while Torv unleashed a barrage that shook the walls. Lena cursed, wiring the bomb under pressure, her hand steady despite the chaos. Kalia fought like a storm, dodging blasts, disarming foes with moves too fast to track. Jace caught her eye mid-fight, a grin flashing. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" She ducked a shot, firing back. Maybe a little. The cannon powered up, its hum rattling their bones. Jace lunged for the controls, Kalia covering him as he ripped into the wiring. "Human design," he muttered, yanking circuits. "Sloppy mods, I can kill it." A Vren officer charge, blade raised. Kalia intercepted, slamming him down with a force that cracked the floor. "Hurry," she hissed. Jace grinned, sweat dripping. Almost there. With a final twist, the cannon sparked and died, its lights fading. Lena yelled. Bombs set. 30 seconds. They ran, enforcers on their heels, the base trembling as the pulse bomb ticked down. The Ember Dawn waited at the dock, Mira at the ramp waving them in. Jace shoved the last refugee aboard, Kalia right behind. The explosion hit as they pulled away, a brilliant flash, then silence as the fortress crumbled into debris. The Vren ships scrambled, but the Ember Dawn jumped to hyperspace, leaving chaos in its wake. On the bridge, the crew cheered, breathless and alive. Jace slumped into his chair, adrenaline fading. "We did it." Kalia stood nearby, watching him. "You did. I just helped." He laughed, shaking his head. "Don't sell yourself short. That was teamwork, human and Vren." She tilted her head, considering. "It's why I stayed, you know. You're kind. You don't give up. You fight. You build. You hope. It's inspiring." Jace raised an eyebrow. High praise from a spy. She smiled. "Real this time. Ex-spy. I'm done with that." Later, in the mess hall, the crew gathered, the refugees safe and resting. Torv raised a ration bar, to kicking Vren ass. Lena smirked, and not dying. Mira just laughed, patching a cut on Jace's arm. He looked at Kalia, sitting quietly at the edge. "What now?" he asked. She met his gaze. "The council's wounded, but they'll regroup. The rebels need allies. And I'd like to stay, if you'll have me." Jace leaned back, thinking. She'd been a gift, a test, a risk. Now she was something else, a choice. "You've earned it," he said finally. "But no more secrets. Deal?" She nodded. "Deal." The crew didn't cheer, but they didn't argue either. Torv tossed her a ration bar, which she caught with a smirk. Lena muttered, "Guess she's one of us now." Mira just shrugged. Could be worse. Jace watched it unfold, the spark of something new igniting. Humanity had faced the galaxy's worst and come out swinging. With Kalia, they'd do it again. The Ember Dawn drifted toward the stars, its path unwritten. The Vren Council wasn't finished, and the rebels were still out there, fighting for a chance. Jace didn't know what lay ahead. More battles, more mysteries. But he knew one thing. They'd face it together. Humans and Vren. Grit and grace. An alliance forged in fire. The galaxy was vast, wild, and waiting, and Jace Harrow was ready to meet it head-on. With Kalia at his side and a crew that wouldn't quit. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning.